Good morning and welcome. You're listening to WEBT New York and Beyond, a broadcast about emergency preparedness and management, created and brought to you by WEBT, the WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team. Our program airs each Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and is hosted by veteran emergency preparedness activists. I am Joetta Brown, your host, along with Carol Johnson. I am the team chief for Division One in the Bronx for community emergency response teams, and I have been in this position for a while now. So that's just a little bit about me. Also, this is Women's History Month, next to the last day of Women's History Month that we are recording our program, which will air Wednesday, April 1st. But I just want to lift up one of our esteemed community emergency response team members who has transitioned several years ago, and that is Joanne Webb Dixon. She was instrumental in starting not only the community emergency response team for Community Board 3, but also assisted. We had a number of members, and they divided up into community boards 4 and 5. Now, community emergency response teams operate as volunteers, and they started, the emergency response team started after 9/11. So we've been operating a few years now. Preparedness and the management of emergencies start at home. It focuses on returning us to our normal activities. Emergencies can happen anywhere, often without warning. So it is important to have plans and supplies ready for the places that you and your household visit regularly. We did not have any notable fires this week that I know about. I may have missed a few, but I hope I didn't. And I hope we really didn't have any fires. We know that fires are the major emergencies that happen, but the more I am in this field, the more I am presenting to you, the more I see that in all areas of our lives, there can be an emergency. So we want to plan ahead, and that is a key to plan ahead, because if we're prepared, we don't have to plan and we don't have to get ready. But because we will always be ready if we are prepared. And it takes the reason I like presenting this program to you each week is that it takes just more than talking about it. It takes action on the community and the individual. This week, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Etta Ritter, who is the district manager of Community Board 3, which covers the Morrisania section of the Bronx. But in covering that section of the Bronx, it also reaches out to other sections of the Bronx and beyond. So we invite Miss Etta Ritter, district manager of Community Board 3, to our program. Good morning, Miss Ritter. How are you doing today?
Oh, good morning, Miss Brown. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me today. I just would like to just talk a little bit about community boards, how there are 59 community boards within the 5 boroughs, and how community boards are important and they play a vital role in improving the quality of life for all New Yorkers. And so we could have up to 50 members on the community board, unsalaried members who are volunteers, who are advocates and stakeholders within a community. And Community Bronx, Community Board 3, covers the neighborhoods of Morrisania, Woodstock, Bathgate, Claremont, Katona Park East, right? And Melrose. Those are the areas that we cover, that we have jurisdiction over. And so community boards are responsible for hosting meetings. We have committee meetings. housing, land use, and economic development committees. We have health and human services. We have aging. We have education. We have consumer affairs. We have parks and recreation, youth services, historical outreach. Historical outreach, that's the committee that oversees co-naming of streets, right? And then we have a general board meeting that we have once a month on the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m., where everybody, all the community can come out and voice their concerns and find out what's going on within the district. Right. So community boards are like the first level of city government where we handle a lot of quality of life issues. Right. So, we're advocates. I'm here to service and make sure that the residents and stakeholders receive essential city services that they are deserving of. And that could be a host of things. It could be street lights that are out, potholes. It could be infestation of rats, right? It could be insecure food insecurity. It's a host of things, right? So we have meetings, we have committees, and then we also play a vital role in the budgeting process, right? Where we play a role in the capital expense budget. We also have a role in the land use of how land is being used and developments that come within the district. We also play a role in that as well. So it's always good to come out and just find out what's going on in your community board. But we have limitations. We're basically advisory, but we can have a bigger voice if more people come out, the stronger we are. And the more
Okay.
involved we are, again, more educated we are, the stronger we are. So I am here to service those in the community and to guide and lead, to advocate for whatever services that are lacking within our district. So that's
Etta,
a small snippet of community boards.
oh, that is community board.
That's
What are
community
the
board role.
what are the biggest risks in the community?
The biggest risk, we have several key problems that we might be facing within the community. Well, we could have a risk could be floods, flood concerns, especially along the Katona Park area, the Southern Boulevard area. Um, that's where we can face, some concerns during the wintertime when, pipes can bust with underneath the ground. We also deal with extreme heat during the summer because we have limited number of trees for shading. So those are some of the risks that we deal with. In addition, we have fire safety concerns related to older buildings in the district where people you do illegal conversions. They turn their homes into illegal conversions, SROs, and that's a big deal here, right? And then, of course, we all know about the lithium batteries from the e-bikes and the scooters. Those are major concerns when people bring those e-bikes into buildings and let them sit there. And that also, if they have an inferior battery, that can create a fire hazard. So these are real issues that require both awareness and prevention. And I always try to tell my community that when they see this, they should call 311 immediately to report it, especially with the bikes. The e-bikes, they need to immediately report it. Don't take a chance and say, oh, I know Jose, I don't mean to throw his name out, but I'm just saying, I know my neighbor and I don't want to call, but no, you should call because you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night facing a fire.
Absolutely. And if you're
Mhm.
calling 311, you're getting prepared and
Right.
you're notifying the proper response
Authority.
teams.
Yes, for sure. And it's a tracking device as well.
And this is something that residents should be doing. So
All the time.
what are some other things and what are some practical steps that residents should take to be prepared?
So every household should have a basic emergency plan, believe it or not. We think because we live in New York City, we don't need an emergency plan, but we do, right? And that includes like a to-go bag, a go bag with essentials, with water, non-perishable foods like, tuna fish, chicken salad. You should have your medications, important documents, and a flashlight and batteries. And if you can, even a radio, right? Those are essential, basic emergency preparedness uh, items that you should have in a bag prepared in the event of emergency. So families should also identify like a meeting location in the case they get separated. And they should also have a written list of emergency contacts. You should have that, readily available to you, accessible to you in the event of emergency. And I strongly encourage residents to sign up for Notify NYC so that they can receive real-time alerts, right? And it's important to understand when to call 911 for emergencies versus 311 for non-emergency issues. So that's something that we'll talk about as we continue this conversation.
Okay. For communities that we're speaking to, I want to really urge you that when you're preparing and getting your food for as an emergency, your emergency food is that you get food that you like, food that you can eat. And we say non-perishable. We're talking canned goods. We're talking dry food.
Yes.
But also with that, you want to, when you start putting those different foods together and your family likes this spice and that spice and the other spice, you want to have those spices along with that food so that you don't want to just put your put a plate of rice in front of your family with no sauce or condiments or something to it. You want to add that little sauce, that little spice to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. What is the role of the property owners and building conditions?
Oh, that's a good question. So, the property owners, they must ensure that their properties are up to code, right? That they are safe at all times, right? That means keeping exits clear, maintaining a fire alarms and extinguishers. Your extinguishers should be inspected every 6 months, and making sure hallways and stairwells are not blocked. That is the role when you live in these residential buildings. It should be a second means of egress, and it should be clear for any residents in the case of an emergency. They also need to ensure and secure vacant apartments, right? Because if you have vacant apartments and they're not being, securely securely closed, people could get in, and that's another way that, unsavory activities can take place in an apartment. And so how they also take care of their garbage, how they properly manage their garbage. Because these poor conditions can lead to both fire hazards and public health concerns. When you don't take care of the garbage right, you have it in a place where it's not clean. You don't have it in bins. That also creates a rat infestation. It creates rats, and it just gets really, unhealthy. It could be a very unhealthy situation. So the property owners need to take care of their properties and keep the place clean and livable for all the residents. So then that's one less thing you have to worry about in the event of an emergency.
One of the things that we can encourage our people to do is again to use that 311 number, because not only in the Bronx, but I'm sure throughout New York City, we do have a high incident of asthma.
Yeah.
And if the streets are not clean, if there's a lot of garbage around, and if there's the droppings from the rats, then that increases the pollution that is in the air and that people are breathing. So that would be lead to increased visits to the hospital to take care of asthmatic patients.
Now, I was going to say you're absolutely right. Definitely, you should report any type of, if you see garbage, dump out conditions, you should definitely report that to 311. And if you can, if you know your local community board, you should forward that service request number to your local community board so they can follow up and make sure that that location is addressed by the New York City Department of Sanitation. You know, certain dump out conditions can result in a summons. Not always, but it can happen. You know, sometimes people just dump in front of tree pits, but at the same time, if there's a property owner attached to that 18-inch from the curb, that property owner can receive a summons during a certain hour of the day. For residential properties, sanitation enforcement can issue a summons between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then again at 6 p.m. between 6 and 7 p.m. at night. So residential property owners are responsible for making sure their properties are clear of any debris or any type of paper during those hours because they can receive a summons for unkept sidewalk condition. So that's something to keep in mind. And commercial properties are also summoned, but they're summoned at a different time. They're summoned between 11 and 12. And then again from 7, I want to say from 7 to 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they're also responsible. But if you see any conditions that are unsightly that can create a rat activity, and you should report it to 311. That's what I suggest to anybody. If you see a condition that is blocking the sidewalk, garbage is blocking, is overflowing, you should report it to 311. So sanitation can take a look at it and clean the area.
Okay. We're going to speak about this next question, and then after that, we're going to take a little break.
Mhm.
So, what role does the community board play? How does Bronx Community Board 3 support emergency preparedness?
So that's a good question. Our role is to connect the community with city agencies and make sure that issues don't fall through the cracks. So when you have an emergency, we have the Office of Emergency Management. We contact the FDNY, which is the fire department, we NYPD, New York City Police Department, the DEP possibly, depending on if there's a severe water main break, and it's affecting traffic. So that's why it's important to call 311 to report these conditions so that then contact the community board so then we can make sure that these issues are addressed in a timely manner. We bring these concerns to our district service cabinet meetings, which every community board is responsible for hosting district cabinet meetings. And this is where all the city agencies come. And I create an agenda of different concerns that have come across my desk throughout the month. And I create an agenda and I ask for feedback on it, like what's going on. I'll send them an email letting them know that, I got a report that there's a water main break somewhere, or that there was a missing fire hydrant and I want to know the status of it. I do follow up. We make sure we follow up on different things. It could be a sidewalk condition, that's DOT, so this is something that we do monthly. However, I don't wait for the month to come to happen, to the following month to happen. I address the situation as it comes in, the complaints as they come in, and I forward them to the prospective agencies so that at the following month, they can give me a report on it. It's not something like, oh, I waited for a whole month to report out on. No, when I get it, I address it. I try to address it immediately within 24 hours. I try to get it to that agency so that they can inspect and determine, what type of actions will be taken
So what I'm hearing is that as citizens,
Mhm.
that if we fulfill our responsibility, which is when we notice something happening, to call 311, and we call 311, then we can forward that information to our different community boards
Yeah.
for further action. And then that gives us an opportunity to participate in the well-being of the quality of life of our individual communities.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
so I think that that is a point very well taken. And I encourage each and every member of their community to, if you are not sitting on the community board, to attend the community board meetings, because I know that I hear a lot of complaints amongst my friends that the sidewalks are dirty, this, that, and the other. But if you are calling 311, if you're attending those community board meetings, because I know that, and I have to put out a disclaimer here, as I am a member of Community Board 3, and actually I am the chairperson of Community Board 3. And Ms. Ritter and I do work very closely together with the conditions that are reported within Community Board. But again, I'm going to go back on the soapbox and urge every member of society to attend your community board meetings so that you will know what happens. And at the community board meetings, it's not only the district manager and the volunteer board members, but it's also your elected officials that either come in person or send their representative to the community board, because they want to know what is happening in their districts. And they are basing some of the actions that they do from the information that they collect at the community board meetings. So with that, we're going to take a short musical break, and we will be right back to hear what Miss Etta Ritter has to say further.
Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. It's alright. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. It's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold and lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since you've been here. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. It's alright. Little darling, the smiles are returning to the faces now. Little darling, it seems like years since you've been here. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, feels like years since you've been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I'm so glad to see it. I see it. It's alright. Little darling, here comes sun. Here comes the sun. I say, little darling, it seems like years since you've been here. Little darling, here comes the sun. Baby, it's alright now. You can come on now. It's alright now. You can come on now.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to WEBT New York and Beyond, a program on emergency management and preparedness. Our guest this afternoon is Miss Etta Ritter, District Manager, Community Board 3 in the Bronx, and you're going to listen to her in just a minute. We just want to remind you who you're listening to. WEBT New York and Beyond at WHCR 90.3 FM, Harlem Community Radio. The Voice of Harlem is committed to informing, educating, and empowering the Harlem community and beyond through local programming and initiatives like the Wednesday morning emergency preparedness broadcast from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and other activities of emergency preparedness and management in and around Harlem and beyond. Ms. Ritter, welcome back.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to take a step back, what you was talking about before we went on break regarding the importance of calling 311. I know some people, they have their feelings that 311 doesn't work, and so they get discouraged. That's why it's very important that you find out what community board you are associated with. If you have a computer, you go and you do a search and you say, oh, what community board do I live in? And you should be able to click on it, give you a list of different items, and say, well, it'll say what I just said, what community do I live in? And you click on it and you could put your address and it'll tell you what community board you're associated with. And you need to get the phone number and the email address, right? And you need to, when you start calling 311, go back to calling 311. Some people don't like it. They say you got to wait too long and, all these excuses. We got to stop having these excuses. We have to start reporting these quality of life issues so that the city of New York will know what we're facing, what we are in need of, where they have to allocate more money, more funding is needed. So it's important that you start reporting this because each agency receives a report every month regarding the 311 complaints, right? So now you have the 311 number, you have a service request number, and now you have the community board number and email address, and you need to email them, your community board, or call them and give them a brief description of your problem and the 311 complaint number. I always also encourage those to also give the 311 operator, their email address, because sometimes you can mistakenly write the wrong service request number down. So when you do that and you give it to us and we go to look it up, it doesn't come up. So if they have your email address, they'll send you the service request number, and that's something you could also forward to the community board office for us to track and monitor for follow-up. So again, it is very important that we start using the 301 complaint system. Call early in the morning, call late at night, and unfortunately summer's coming, so it's going to be a lot of hydrants running and it's going to be a lot of noise, honking of horns and people playing music, quality of life issues, which are not addressed in a timely manner. However, they affect your quality of life. At 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody's blaring music, that can be very disturbing and you have to go to work. See, these are the things that have to be reported so that they will know at this location that there is an issue. If you don't call, they won't know it's an issue. But when they start seeing the reports and they see that 1595 3rd Avenue has 20 reports of loud music, now they know it's an issue in that location, okay? So start using
We
311.
we want to remember that this year, this summer, we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States.
Okay.
We have the tall ships coming into New York,
Mhm.
and we have the Olympic Games here in New York and in the region. It's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of visitors here. It's going to be a lot of celebrations. So we just want to get prepared. We want to prepare everybody and let us get prepared before those happen so that when the date happens, when July 4th happens and we're planning a picnic in the park and we might find that the park picnic has been canceled because of another celebration, let us get prepared now. Let us talk a little bit about vulnerable populations. What about seniors and other vulnerable residents? How can they be supported, especially in an emergency?
So, I always that's a good question too, because we got to look out for our seniors, right? And we got to look out for those that have disabilities. And so that's why, it's always good to do a wellness check, with, these people, they may live alone. So, they're especially vulnerable during emergencies. So, I always, during heat, when the weather's very warm, when the weather's very cold, we always need to check on our neighbors. That is just very important. I always emphasize that we need to look out for one another, right? Somebody looked out for us, now it's our turn, to make sure our seniors are okay, they have food, they have water, they have their medications, so that's what I say. Just don't forget your seniors, don't forget, your tenants in your building, your neighbors. If you know that people live alone, you should just knock on the door and just say, I'm just checking on you. How you doing? I think that's very important. We don't forget about our seniors and those, with disabilities. Mhm.
Absolutely, because we see people, New York City is a walking city.
Mhm.
So we see people walking down uh, either in a wheelchair or using another assistive device. So
Uh-huh.
when we're even walking in the street, of course we're going to move over and let them pass in front of us.
Mhm.
Of course, when we're waiting in line, we're going to let someone who's using an assistive device in front of us. But also for those people we know who live in our neighborhoods, like Ms. Ritter was saying, say hello to them and adopt them. Say, I'd like to give you, I know that I see you alone all the time. Do you mind if I come and knock on your door? Because
Mhm.
sometimes you need to ask permission because we all value our privacy. But if we need to ask permission to call someone to check on them, and you explain that you're just checking on them to see that they're well and see if they need anything
Mhm.
and if there's anything that you can help them with. So absolutely, we
Yeah,
we
it could be
must.
a life-saving event, just to have that
Yeah,
connection is very important.
it is. It is. It
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
Let's do a little bit of clarification here. Sometimes there's confusion. When should I call 911 or when should I call 311? Let's
So,
talk a little bit about that.
okay, so let's be very clear. 911 is for a life-threatening emergency. That's 911. You call 911 for a fire, for a medical emergency, or situations where an immediate response is needed, right? An accident. That's when you call 911. 311 is for non-emergency issues like flooding, heat complaints, noise, unsafe conditions. But it all depends. That could be a little tricky too with the unsafe conditions, right? What are we talking
Hmm.
about? A building, that you see a whole crack. I think that's 911 where the buildings department needs to come in. But again, call 311 and they will determine if it's a 911 emergency. Just report it. And I always tell residents, document your calls. Like again, give them your email address and then you forward the email to my office or to the community board office that you're associated with, right? It's important if there are delays, those records, we need to document that. because we need to advocate for better services and accountability. Because a friend of mine just recently called 911 and they took hours to get to her. And she wound up having to take a cab to the emergency room and she had emergency surgery. So that's something that I'm looking into now. I want to know why it took the not, took the ambulance so long to come to our house, and I'm still waiting on an answer. But those are things that we need to know about. We need to know when you call 911 and they're not coming for hours. That's a problem. I don't know if it's a staffing problem, it's a shortage of 911, EMS technicians. What was the issue? Why are they not getting there in 2 to 5 minutes? That's an issue. That's an issue in our community, and it should be documented at all times.
I know that February was Heart Health Month, but I just want to bring heart health to the forefront at this time, because if you experience pain, especially now, women and men are different. Men may experience chest pain, but women may experience pain in their arms, pain across the chest, not directly. You won't say it's in the chest, but it's across the chest or across the back. When you are if you experience that kind of pain, if your family member experiences that kind of pain, and it's not from a sharp fall or something like that, but that is a time to call 911 for emergency services. Because if you're having a heart attack or a stroke, the quicker that you can get emergency services, and it's not good to take yourself to the emergency room, because taking yourself to the emergency room, you don't have the equipment that will stabilize you. That's the reason that 911 call is so important. We want to always have ourselves at the forefront and take care of ourselves first.
Yeah. And you could also experience numbness too. Don't forget numbness. Your arms can start going numb. Your limbs.
Yes. Okay. And okay, you would experience numbness all up and down the arm and in the hands. Okay.
So something to be very mindful of. Just don't take any chances.
No. That is why we have emergency services. They are here to service us. And we're not encouraging anybody to use them as their regular doctor. No. In an emergency situation. And we can all tell when an emergency situation is arising.
Yeah.
Just don't wait. At this time, we have we want to talk about preparedness being a shared responsibility. How is preparedness a shared responsibility? What are your thoughts on that?
Residents, stakeholders, the community at large, in order for it to be a shared responsibility, you need to be informed and you need to be ready, right? You need to educate yourself on emergency preparedness. That's the first thing, education. Again, we live in a big city, New York City, and we think that certain things can't happen to us. We saw what happened in 9/11, and we need to be ready and we need to stay informed. So property owners, they're responsible for maintaining safe conditions. City agencies, we must respond effectively. The Office of Emergency Management, one of their main responsibilities is to send advisories, and they send them to the community boards when we have an inclement weather, whether it's very severe hot weather or cold weather. And we forward those advisories to people on our to our listserv network, and on our social media sites. We have to let people know what is happening, what's about to happen. And as a community board, we are responsible for advocating, right? And we will continue to do that. Advocate, we'll coordinate, and even ensure your concerns are being addressed. If we all do our part, we can build a safer, more resilient community district. However, again, the most important part of all of this, you have to educate yourself. You cannot keep thinking that, oh, I don't need to understand emergency preparedness. We all need to be aware of emergency preparedness, and we need to prepare our households in the event of emergency. We really need to do that. It's crucial at this time. We just cannot take chances. We had a bad winter. This winter was cold, and there were a lot of pipes that busted underneath the ground. I don't know if y'all know. I know in my district we had quite a few busted pipes, and it took hours and it took days for DEP to make sure that our streets were safe. It was cold, and water turns into ice. But the agencies came out, DEP came out, Department of Environmental Protection, Sanitation came out, and they put down that salt, and that's why our streets are a little rough right now. And that's another thing. We are still recovering from this bad winter. So you see your streets are messed up, you need to call 311 and you need to report it. You need to report these potholes, these big holes in the ground, so that DOT, Department of Transportation, will come out and they can fill up all these streets where they have these big holes and these big gaps. That's very important. It is our shared responsibility to do this. We cannot say it's somebody else's, problem. We get a lot. The district that I oversee, Community Board 3, they always say, it's one of the underprivileged communities, right? We always get dumped on and things of that nature. And that may be true, but we also have to start opening up our mouth and being more we have to advocate for ourselves. And we have to use the tools that are given to us. We can't just always stay on a corner complaining. You got to pick up the phone and you got to call 311. You have to come to meetings, whether it's community board meetings, whether it's your council district meetings, whether it's your assembly district meetings. You need to come to meetings. Okay? We're the first line of government. The council and assembly office, those are the men and women who create the laws. They need to hear from you. If you don't show up, it's power in numbers. And that's what we have to start. We got to get away from complaining and be more ready to resolve issues. Stop pointing blame and let's do something about it. Let's start resolving these issues that have been plaguing our community for years. That's my spiel. And we got to stop. You say, oh, you go to Riverdale, they don't have this. Yeah, you know why? Because Riverdale, everybody comes out. They'll come out to a meeting when they hear something is about to be coming into their neighborhood that they don't want. They hear that supportive housing is coming. They come out. What do? We talk about it. We don't come to a meeting. And then when a place is built, who said this shit? Who allowed this? You did. You allowed it because you didn't come to the meeting and speak up. You didn't say anything to your council person. You didn't say anything to the district office. You didn't say anything to the assembly. That's why it's here. Remember that. You have a voice. We pay taxes and we vote. Come on. We could do a little better. So now it's time for you to start coming to your meetings and finding out what's going on in your community board. And don't wait to come to a meeting to complain. Contact the offices before so we'll know what your issue is so we can start working on it. You come to the meeting, now you want to give me 15, 30 complaints. No, don't do that. That's not right. You come, you call me, you send me an email so I can start working on it. So when you come to my meeting, I am aware of your situation and I might have some information for you. I might have an update for you. Okay? But it's up to us. This is where we live. This is where we're raising our family. We don't, this is our community. We have a responsibility to make sure that we live in a safe and clean environment. It's not about liking people. It's about wanting to have a better quality of life. We deserve that. You work hard. You have, again, you have a family, you have your parents, you have your kids, your grandparents. Come on, it's time for us to start, activating. Let's be more on the page of resolving issues, not complaining about it. Okay, we got a complaint. I hear the complaint. Now, what can we do to change that? Whatever that complaint is. Let's be ready to do the work. And don't just put it on one person. Let's do it collectively, not individually. How about that? I dare you.
Well said. Well said, Etta. Well
I dare
said.
you.
In planning, in preparation, in communication, one little thing we did not say. We didn't say to our people that preparing for the emergency situation, have your emergency information available. For each person in your household, you need your name, your address, who can be notified in an emergency. You need your doctor's information, and you need that to be available in case it is a 911 emergency situation, or just a general emergency situation. You need that information in your go bag and post it prominently, say on your refrigerator where you have your magnets or your children's schoolwork. It needs to be posted. Ms. Ritter, I just want to thank you and thank you and thank you and thank you. And I know that your information is going to be well received by our listening audience. I just want to remind people who we are and what we're doing here. You have been listening to WEBT New York and Beyond at WHCR 90.3 FM, Harlem Community Radio. The voice of Harlem is committed to informing, educating, and empowering the Harlem community and beyond through local programming and initiatives like the Wednesday morning emergency preparedness broadcast at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and other activities of emergency preparedness or management in and around Harlem and beyond. Etta, I'm going to give you the final say. You said most of it and all of it, but I know you have a final word.
What's the saying? The saying is when you don't plan, you fail, right? So we have to plan so we don't fail. So we have to plan so we can succeed. And we need to start planning. We have to stop not being prepared. We have to be prepared in every situation. It's time for us to just, really unite as a community. It's that time. It's way past that time. We have to unite. It's not about likes. It's about having a better quality of life. And the only way we're going to be able to have a better quality of life if we come together respectfully, right? And we listen to one another and figure out how we can resolve some of these problems that are plaguing our community. Like sanitation issues, like my biggest pet peeve right now is pet waste. How dog owners are not picking up after their pets. That's a big pet peeve for me. And I want everybody that's listening to know, when you don't pick up after your pet, when you leave that dog waste on the street, what you are doing is allowing a rat to be at a 5-star restaurant. That is a 5-star restaurant for a rat. So you're just increasing the population when you do that. So you love your animals, they like your family, but when you bring them outside, for some reason, you think it's okay to leave the dog waste on the street, and it's not. It really isn't. We hopping and skipping over dog waste. It makes no sense. It's your responsibility to pick up after your dog. And I'm sorry, I'm ending on that. Pick up your dog waste, okay? It's a 5-star restaurant to these rats that are running around New York City.
Okay, we're going to be forming rat patrols in a minute.
We have to, that's something we need to discuss. How can we mitigate the dog feces on the streets of New York City? It makes no sense to me. It's terrible on certain blocks. It's horrible.
Thank you again, Etta, for coming on. And I'm sure that our audience has taken in everything you've said, and I know that some of us are going to act on it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you. You've been listening to WEBT New York and Beyond, hosted by Joetta Brown and Carol Johnson. Special guest today, Ms. Etta Ritter. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. WHCR 90.3 FM. This is Stu Reed, host of Community and Technology, airing every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. For 40 years, WHCR has been the voice of Harlem, providing you with news you can use, emergency preparedness information, and a diverse mix of talk and music shows. Our DJs and radio personalities are all volunteers who come out, rain, sleet, or snow, just like the mail carriers, to serve and keep you connected. I am personally asking you to give the WHCR because there's no other station like it. Telling it like it is, not beholden to any commercial or special interest group. Giving is easy and can be done in 3 ways. Our 40 for 40 campaign is asking each of you to donate $40. That's $1 for each year of WHCR being the voice of Harlem and beyond. Number 1, you can give at WHCR.org online. Just click the donation tab. 2, send your check or money order to WHCR FM Radio, 160 Convent Avenue, NAC Building, room 1/513, New York, New York, 10031. Or 3, if you want to donate now but the funds aren't yet available, just use our pledge line to call and make a pledge and pay later. Call 212-650-7526. That's 212-650-7526. Leave your name and number and someone will return your call. Remember to speak slowly and clearly. Thank you in advance for supporting WHCR, the voice of Harlem, and ensuring our voices are heard for the next 40 years and beyond.